Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Juliet from Jill's Closet. Thank you all for tuning in and thank you for the massive love and support you guys have been showing to my channel. So from my last video on how to make a waistcoat, I told you guys we'll be making a palazzo trouser that will be paired with it. So here is the video. Please watch to the end of this video because you'll be having so much to learn. And please, if you've not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Do well to subscribe, like and comment. Thank you. For this palazzo trouser with side pockets, I'll be making use of 2 yards of fabric. This is how much fabric that I had left. You can as well use 2 to 2.5 yards of this fabric depending on your body size. The first thing I did was to place my fabric on fold and cut out how much fabric I'll be needing for the front of this trouser. So I measured out about 17 inches for my front piece, and this 17 inches is an estimation of my round thigh measurement divided by 2 plus 2 or 2.5 inches for my crotch extension. I'll be explaining how I got to this shortly in the video. If you're on a bigger size, you make sure the remaining fabric will be enough for the back before you cut out. I'll be taking my full length measurement from the down part of this fabric. My full length measurement is 41 inches. That's how long I want this trouser to be, plus 2 inches allowance. That will give me 43. I extended the line a little bit, and from there we'll be taking out our band measurements. This trouser is going to have a band, and the band will be 2 inches. But because I'll be adding a sewing allowance, which is 1/2 inch, I'll be removing 1.5 instead. So I'll just go ahead and mark out 1.5. This 1.5 will serve as our starting point for our trouser measurement. So from there, I placed my tape on that 1.5 inches, which is our starting point, and went ahead to cross check if I still have my 43 inches total length measurement. After I've confirmed this, I'll just go ahead to mark out our new starting point and rule across. So from the starting point, placing my tape on 1.5 inch that we've removed for our band, I'm going to be taking other measurements. So the first measurement I'll be taking is my hip line, which is 9 inches. I'll just go ahead and mark it out and rule it across. The next one is the crotch line. To get your crotch line accurately, you can sit down on a chair or a stool that has a flat surface. Then place your tape from your waistline to the point where your buttocks touches the flat surface of the chair. So this is a proper way to get your crotch measurement. So mine is about 11 inches. So I went ahead to measure it out. And because this is supposed to be a palazzo trouser that it's a little bit free, it's advised to add extra 1 inch to your crotch line. From this end of the fabric, I went in by 1 inch. This is where we'll be taking our waist measurement from. From the starting line that we had, I took my knee length measurement. Remember, while removing 1.5 inches for your band. My knee length measurement is 22 inches. So I went ahead to mark this out. From this end on the knee line, I went in by 1.5 inches. Then from my full length line, I also went in by 1.5 inches. You can as well use 2 inches. From this point on our waistline, I'll take my waist measurement. So my waist measurement is 32 inches. When divided by 4 is 8. I marked out 8 and added 2 inches allowance. Then on the hip line, from the side of the fabric close to me, I went in with my hip measurement, which is 40 inches, divided by 4, which is 10. I also added 2 inches allowance to this measurement. On the crotch line, I measured out my round thigh measurement, divided by 2, plus 2 to 2.5 inches crotch extension. So my round thigh measurement of one thigh is 28 inches, when divided by 2 is 14 inches, plus 2 inches crotch extension. Now you've seen the reason behind the 17 inches we took while cutting out our front piece, because this is the widest measurement we'll be having on the front piece. So I'll just go ahead and join these marks that I have from the waistline to the hip line, then down to our crotch line, forming our crotch with a curve. From the mark I have on my waistline, I'll be connecting it down to the hip line, then from our hip line to the crotch line, and also down to the mark where we went in by 1.5 inches on our knee line. So just go ahead and connect all these marks together just like I'm doing. Then from the knee line, we'll be going down to the full length. So just follow the steps that I'm taking. From the full length, I'll just go ahead and work on how wide I want the legs of this pant to be. So from there, I'll measure out 13 inches. This is how wide I want mine to be. So you can go ahead to use 13 inches, more or less. Preferably, you can just leave 1 inch from the other end. Then from there, you just go ahead and connect this to the crotch line. From the waistline, I came down by 0.75 inch. Or you can as well use 1 inch. So since the front piece is not going to have a dart, this is a form of a dart that we're taking on this front piece to make it lap on the front part. So you just connect it from that point to the end of the waistline, just like I'm doing. With that, I'm done with the front piece, and I'll go ahead and cut this out. But I won't be cutting out the slants we have on the waistline till I'm done cutting the back piece, since I'll be using the front piece to trace out the back piece. I added extra half-inch allowance to the waistline and the hip line before cutting out, since I want those parts to be very free on me and not so tight. So just go ahead and follow the steps to cut out your front piece. The remaining fabric that I had left, I've gone ahead to fold it into two pieces to work on my back piece. I arranged the front piece on the fabric that I have folded, making sure that the leg of this front piece matches with the ending part of the folded fabric that I have, then also giving a space for our crotch extension for our back piece. So if you're managing your fabric, you should make sure that all this aligns before you go ahead to cut it out. From the crotch line on the front piece, I came down by 1/4 of an inch, then I went ahead to extend this. Then I added 1.5 inches for my back piece crotch extension. This was all I had, but you can as well use 2 inches for your crotch extension at the back. One key point you should note in making a good trouser is the crotch part. So the freer the crotch part, the better the trouser turns out at that area. From the waistline on my front piece, I'm going to be going up by 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches we went up with will serve as our new waistline for the back piece. From that point of the extension, I'll be connecting it in a slant-like manner to meet the other end of the waistline on the front piece. Then at this point, remember the 1 inch we took out from the front piece. We won't be taking it out on that side of the back piece because it will be serving as our dart allowance. I went ahead to add 1.5 inches allowance to the new waistline for the back, and also 1.5 inches allowance to the hip. After then, I connected the points that I have together down to the crotch line. Then from that point of the crotch line, we'll be extending it to the full length of this trouser. At the knee line, I marked out 1 inch allowance. Then with a curve, I connected my crotch line to that 1 inch mark. And from there down to the full length line, adding 1 inch allowance all through. On the other side of our back piece, we won't be adding any allowance, so we're going to cut it out just the way the front piece is. So follow what I'm doing and cut yours out the same way. For the band of this trouser, I made use of 2 inches for our band, but I'll be cutting out 2.5 inches on fold. Half inches will serve as my sewing allowance. I'll be cutting my front band and the back band separately. So for my front band, I went ahead to measure what I had on the waistline of my trouser, and it was about 20 inches. So I'll just be cutting out 20 inches length for my front band. Then for my back band, I measured out the waist of my back piece trouser, then cut out the length that I needed for the band. Moving on to the sewing part, I'm just going to take this to my machine and sew down the crotch part of the front piece and the crotch part of the back piece separately. And this is what it looks like after sewing it down. Remember the points we marked out on the waist of our front piece. I'm going to remark it down and take it off. On the front piece of this trouser, I'll be taking measurements for my pockets. So the first thing I measured out is my waist measurement, which is 32, and divided by 4 is 8 inches. So I marked out that place to know where our pockets will enter. From that point, I went in by 2 inches, and this is how wide I want the pocket to be. And from the waistline that we have, I'll be going down by 5 inches. This is the length of my pocket. Then I connected these 2 points together and went ahead to form my pocket curve. So you just do it as I'm doing in the video. Also, you're going to add half an inch around this pocket curve for sewing allowance. Then you go ahead and cut this out. Remember, this front piece is still on fold. That is 2 pieces of the front piece. I'll be making use of a different fabric for the inner pocket because the fabric I used for my trouser was exhausted. So I just had to find another piece to make up for my pocket. So I placed the fabric on fold and I took my measurement. The length of the pocket I'll be needing is 10 inches for each side of the pocket. But I have 20 inches here, so I'll be cutting this into 2 to get 2 pockets. And I'll be using a width of 7 inches. So I just went ahead to measure out 7 inches for the width of this pocket. I cut this out and also added half inch on the sides. So now I have two pockets, one for the left side and one for the right side. I have my pocket unfold, and I'll be showing you how I'll add the fabric I used for the trouser to the parts of this pocket that will be seen from the front, because I wouldn't want a different fabric to be showing on the front of my trouser. If you have enough fabric to form your pocket, you don't need to do this, but this is also a bonus if you want to learn how to do this. This piece of my main fabric, I cut it out into two, one for the left pocket and one for the right pocket. So this is what we're trying to form at the end of the day, having this part of the fabric seen at the front of our side pocket. So I cut out part of the fabric we're using for this pocket and replaced it with the main fabric I used to sew the trouser. So as you can see from what I'm doing, I measured it out and added allowance, then cut this out because we'll be replacing it with this other piece. I did the same thing for the other pockets and went ahead to join this on my machine. This is what it looks like after joining my pieces together. To join this to my trouser, I'll be opening it up to make sure that the parts that I had the fabric for the trouser is facing the outer part. Then I'll go ahead and arrange my trouser on this pocket and cut out the shape that we have. Align the trouser in such a way that the ends fit into the side pocket, and when you open it up, you'll be having something like this. So automatically, this fabric we have on top will be tracing the curve that we have on the trouser and taking off that fabric on the top. I opened it up and then cut out the parts that I've traced. So the next thing I'll do is to place the pocket back on fold and align it with my trouser and go down to my machine, sew this with the right side facing the right side. So I'm going to turn it over this way, sew it with 1/2 inch and flip it over when I'm done. I'm done sewing this, then I'll just go ahead and give it a nice notch all through. Flip it open and go ahead and sew down that part on your machine so that the pocket stays together. After that, you align your pockets properly. You know the pocket is like a square behind your trouser, so the ending part is still open. We'll just go ahead and sew down that part, but the side is closed because it's on fold, so there's no point touching that part. I'm done sewing the down part of this pocket. I gave it a good notch and turned it inside out. So you're going to be sewing it in such a way that they won't be seeing the joining from the outside of the pocket. So I flipped this to the other side and arranged my pocket. So this is what it looks like after making your pocket. So as you can see, the hand can fit into it and the sides of the pocket are arranged properly and sewn neatly. I did the same for the other side of the pocket. After that, I went ahead to give this a good press so that the pocket laps with the trouser. And I also pinned the sides down so that the pocket stays together. For the back piece, I'll go ahead and add that to it. You know, we didn't add that to the front, but I'll be doing that to the back of the trouser. So from the middle part of this back piece and on the waistline, I'll be going in by 4 inches. Then from that waistline, I'll be going down by 5 inches. This is how long I wanted that to be. And on the waistline, I took out 1/2 inches on both sides of our dart line and connected it down to that 5 inches mark that we have. I also marked out the darts on the other part of this trouser. Then holding the darts together, I'll be sewing it down on the machine. This is what it looks like when I was done. For my band, I ironed a hard paper stay to read so that it will be strong. Then remember, we have unfold 2.5 inches, 2 inches for our band and 1/2 inches for sewing allowance. So I'll just go ahead and attach this to my front and back piece. From the part of my band that is open, I'm going to be aligning it with my waistline, then place it down just like I'm doing and go ahead to sew it down with 1/2 inch on my machine. This is what it looks like after sewing it down. So as you can see, I have the joining at the back of the trouser, then the front, the joining is not seen. I did the same thing for the band for the back piece. The next thing I did was to join the front piece and the back piece of this trouser together. Starting from the middle of the trouser at the midpoint of the crotch, I held it together, then joined the two legs of the front and the back piece together at each side with 1/2 inch. And to join the outer sides, I measured out the midpoint of my trouser at the band, then took my waist measurement at this midpoint. From this midpoint, marked out my waist measurement and went ahead to stitch down my waist at that point. Then I also marked out my hip line, which is at 9 inches. So when you're stitching down from your waist measurement, you're going to sew across at your exact waist measurement. Then on reaching the hip line, you just be sewing by 1/2 inch or 0.75 inch throughout the leg of the trouser. Then you go ahead and do the same for the other side of the trouser. After sewing the sides of this trouser, I turned it out to the right side, and I also left a space on one side of it for our zipper. And as you can see, our pockets are well seated and it can accommodate the hand well. On the side that I left open, I'll be attaching my zipper. So I'll just go down to my sewing machine and sew this zipper to it. Then on the leg of this trouser, I'll be folding it in with the 2 inches that I gave as the allowance and sew it down, or you go ahead and use your hemming gum and gum it with your iron. So guys, this is what my trouser looks like after I've attached the zip to one side of this trouser. So as you can see, it was well sewn in, then the pockets were well fitted in front of the trouser. And our wide mount palazzo trouser turned out so beautiful. I hope you found this video helpful and valuable. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more of these wonderful tutorials. Thank you for watching. Bye.